I am Harit Chaturvedi from Max Oncology. So ACOS is the Asian Clinical Oncology Society, which is coming for the first time in India. And fortunately for us, the oncology world is progressed very rapidly in last 30 years. And we will see this transformation captured so well during these 4 days that actually our oncology community will benefit in a big time. Especially the surgical team, because in surgery a lot of this technology transfer and knowledge happens with close interaction with the mentors and teachers. So when we have these surgeons from Japan, from Korea, and also so many of our own senior surgeons who will be interacting with the young faculty and young students, so there are a lot of tips and tricks which go on in the surgical trade regularly, which help us achieve what is possible to do in treatment of cancer. So this will happen, and in this whole process it's a two-way exchange of knowledge which helps people acquire skills, improves their decision making process, and helps us all move to the next level of care, delivery and care to our patients. Realizing the importance of this thing, the Indian Association of Surgical Oncologists has merged its mid-term conference with the ACOS. So during these 4 days the mid-term of IASO will also be happening, and that is itself an indication that how important this event is for the oncology community. And I'm expecting more than 1,000 surgeons, oncosurgeons during this conference. See, advances are almost on daily basis, and that is the charm, that is the advantage of how to improve the outcome, how to decrease the side effects. From head to toe, wherever I see, every 6 months to 1 year, there's some slight shift happens in understanding and application, and those things, as they accumulate in 5-7 years, you see a significant move and you realize that okay, this has changed, this practice has changed to this point. So we see that in surgery. As far as the affordability part is concerned, we can take few examples. If I talk of maybe sentinel node biopsy in breast cancer, it may sound that it adds to the cost of treatment in terms of when we do the surgery by about 7,000-8,000 rupees, because you need an additional equipment, you need an additional injection, you need more backup. But in the long run, this becomes cheaper, because your 30% patients would not get lymphedema, they will not get the morbidity of seroma, will not get so many side effects. So wherever I see from head to toe, whether it's a jaw reconstruction in head and neck cancer, or it is a better structured robotic surgery, or a video assisted thoracic surgery, or a laparoscopic surgery for colorectal cancer, what appears as expensive is actually not expensive as you apply that in large volumes. The acquirement of technology, the equipment and the skill, that is expensive, and that leads to the cost. But when you apply this on day-to-day practice, actually for the patient this cost gets cheaper, and 6 months to 1 year time actually becomes cheaper than the old gold standard. For example, for ovarian cancer, or for example endometrial cancer, full incisional abdominal surgery is the gold standard, has been the gold standard. Now when this was being done, patients were in hospital for 5-6 days. Today when we do robotic or a laparoscopic surgery, patients go home in 48 hours. So one is the recovery period is shorter, they go back to work faster. Second thing, which is equally important or probably more important, is that the problems of incisional hernia and complications related to long incisions is gone forever. So 15-20% of these patients who come back to hospital for the hernia repair or for obstruction or for adhesions, these things have completely disappeared, or rather come down to less than 3% or 4%. Now you can imagine these benefits as you accrue them. So the whole issue about cost in healthcare, as technology is becoming costly, the drugs are becoming expensive, it is expensive in certain ways. But you cannot compare this with the traditional cost, because there the outcomes are very poor. The morbidity was so high that people were not reluctant to go for surgery. Today we can deliver better treatment at a higher cost, but if you put it in the perspective of whole economic growth, I would say we are very competitive, and this is the way it should be. So laparoscopy, when I started into oncosurgery exactly 26-27 years back, it was a big no-no. There was no role of laparoscopy in oncosurgery, and in first couple of years realized the importance of laparoscopy in making a diagnostic or a staging procedure. For all gastric cancer, you put in a laparoscope to see. We would avoid a big cut, because you can actually avoid a major surgery in a person who does not deserve it or require it. So from that time, in last 7-8 years, it has become accepted gold standard for more than I would say a dozen surgeries: prostate cancer, bladder cancer, kidney, colon, rectum, and so many in certain esophagus, in thoracic surgeries. So minimal access surgery is there to stay in oncology. Minimal access surgery is the way forward, and I think I was not an advocate of this, but now I'm a big advocate of minimal access surgery. So fortunately now more and more people are getting trained. See, everything has its learning curve. So when we started in oncosurgery, there were two breeds. One group of people who had never done oncology, but they were good in laparoscopic surgery. There were a breed of people who done oncology, but never done laparoscopic surgery. Now that fusion has happened already. And today I know for sure there are good 100 plus surgeons across India who do good oncological principles based laparoscopic or minimal access surgery in our day-to-day practice. Now this may sound a small number for our country, and the way it is happening, that every year we are adding 200, 300 more to this number. So I think it's going to be a very rapid growth, and we will be there in time. So what is a medical tourist looking at? He wants quality care at reasonable costs. The agenda does not change. He doesn't come to India for weather or for tourism or anything. It's just good care at affordable costs. Now if Indian doctors can deliver good care across the globe, whether you go to US or UK or Europe, anywhere, Indian doctors are playing that role. Now they've got trained here. Now if we can provide that same infrastructure, the same culture, the same technology, respect for patient's time, patient's knowledge, patient's understanding, and deliver the right treatment as a team, we are there to be there in a big way, and that is why you see Indian medical tourism is growing big time. So if we compare top-notch treatment, and our cost compared to the Western world is at least 1/6, 1/8 or 1/10, whatever you say, that is the cost. So we will be leading the medical tourism world if we place ourselves very well. So our size is our advantage and a disadvantage. Advantage because we have got in India now at least 50 odd good cancer centers, and at least 250 to 300 above average cancer centers. And when I say that, I mean where there are cohesive teams: surgical, medical, radiation, pathology, radiology. So this number cannot be compared with Mexico, and I don't have accurate data, but I am sure that we outnumber them in certain ways. The disadvantage is that we have our own internal load so much. Our own population is still underserved. So that also becomes our top priority. So the whole thing finally will turn out that as this number game takes the next level, more and people get trained, more people get infrastructure and facilities to execute treatment. As this happens, we will, I would say, compare very well with anybody in the world. I cannot talk in reference to Mexico in specific, but I can say that I am sure our private sector in oncology is growing at a reasonable pace to deliver a quality care at reasonable cost. Biggest challenge I feel is that we are not utilizing our resources appropriately. For example, if I look at the NGOs or the support which is provided for cancer treatment or subsidized cancer treatment, a good chunk of that still goes to palliative care and terminal care, almost 70-80% of that. If we shift that money, 50% of that money, to preventive oncology or to early diagnosis, I think we'll actually cross the bar at a very high speed, and we'll be able to deliver much more quality care. So who will bring that drive, who will bring that change, I really don't know. But this is a big roadblock, that we are not utilizing our resources appropriately, we are not able to position our teams well, so that is a challenge.